joining us today for another episode of What's Your Why Wednesday. I'm here with the amazing Erika Baldino. She's the Executive Vice President of Business Development at KV National Land Services and 1031 Exchange, legal 1031 Exchange. Erika, thank you so much for being with us today. Now, most of us came into the mortgage and title and real estate industries by accident, but we stay in the industry because it's tied to our personal and professional why. So at this time, Erika, please share with us, what's your why?
So I love that you say we got into this industry as an accident, because it seems that every time you're networking in this industry, the minute you say you're a part of it, people say, oh, what did you do before? It's almost like we know that there's something leading up to it. So what I did before was I was a chemist and I worked for the state of New Jersey in a little lab. And I felt like I did absolutely nothing for anybody else. I wasn't making people happy. I kind of just did my work every day, my 9 to 5, and I went home and there was no reward to me at the end of the day. And when I got into title, I feel like I was just so overwhelmed, and what my why is really making people happy, making their dream of home ownership come true. I change people's lives, and I don't say that lightly, and I don't say that because I'm a hero, but there are people that I've witnessed cry at the closing table. I've had people that are, they bring their family to closings, their relatives, their mothers, their fathers, and they're overjoyed. And so to be part of that process for me is really why I'm in this industry and why I love this industry.
Wow, I love hearing that so much. Literally, just as I'm listening to you, I'm getting like this happy feeling just listening, because I can recall, many a situation where, especially, back in the day when I was on the retail side before I switched to wholesale, I remember having like families waiting, like waiting to do their closing. And like you said, they would have their children with them, or they would have their parents with them, or other family members, and just the happiness on their faces and how excited they were. And you're correct, Erika. Every single day, we get to be part of a life-changing event, something that they will remember for the rest of their lives, whether it's their first home, their fifth home, it doesn't matter. It's life-changing. It really is.
Yes.
And
it's a constant reminder. It's a constant reminder to the teams that we work with. Hey guys, we do this every single day, but these people might do it once in their lifetime. So you have to always treat each file as an individual.
You are correct. And that leads me to my next question. So give me one of those stories, right? We all have those special stories that really we hang on to, right? We can recall them in our brains. We can remember when it occurred. Give us one of those stories where you realize the monumental impact that you have on a family or a situation. And it also can be a team. It doesn't have to be a family.
So I am working with a client right now as we speak. She's a woman of color. She's based in California. She's divorced and has 2 children. Their children, I think her children are 8 and 11. And she keeps asking me to nail a closing date down for her file. And I kept saying, don't worry about it. I'm going to send a notary to you. There's no need to plan. And she said, no. I want to fly both of my daughters to New Jersey so that she can watch mom invest in multifamilies. I want them to be present on the walkthrough. I want them to be at the closing. I want them to listen to you do the closing. This is an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old. You know what I mean? She's like, I want to show them what they're going to inherit, and I want to teach them about generational wealth. And that struck me as just a beautiful memento. She is dead set on having her children present. She will do whatever it has to do to fly them here so that they can watch mommy build her real estate empire. So that's part of the reason I do what I do.
That is absolutely one of the best stories I've heard. And for the last 18 months, I've been listening to people's stories. And that one is incredible, because it's one thing, when you speak about a single mom making the decision to go into, investing in multifamilies, that's one thing, right? That's phenomenal. But have the foresight to think about number one, we know what her why is. Her why is
Right.
her children and
Right.
building that generational wealth. So we've already
Right.
established her why, but then to realize that she knows that 8 years old, 10 years old, those kids, although they're not going to understand all the parts of it, they will understand that their mother made it a big deal. They will understand that it was important to their family, regardless of
Yes.
understanding the details. And that's the part
Yes.
they'll never forget. They will always remember that.
And they're not just going to inherit a portfolio as spoiled little kids that are
Yeah.
kind of like, okay, well, whatever, mom must have bought these for us. They're going to see mom struggle and mom getting approved for a mortgage and mom moving the money, and she's doing 1031 exchanges. She's never done that before. So all of these are firsts. And I think they're going to remember that so that they're not going to take this for granted and hopefully continue her legacy. So I was very moved by that. I'm glad I got to share that with you.
Yes, I love that story. That is wonderful. So is she investing in properties in New Jersey or?
So she sold two, and she sold one in Florida, and she's buying three in Newark, New Jersey. She's going to have four families in
Wow.
Newark. Yep. And she
Look
lives in
at that.
California. So, and she's a nurse, by the way. She's a nurse. I hope she's listening. She's a nurse, and this is her hustle. This is how she's going to make her, her children proud.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, as if it's not enough that she's already a hero of being a nurse and serving others, right? She has this mindset of I'm not just worried about today. I'm already thinking about tomorrow. I'm already
Yeah.
putting this away. I love that. So kudos to her, and that's a phenomenal
Kudos to
story.
her. And it's so funny because she tells me all the time that this industry is harder than nursing. Like she makes these jokes all the time. And like we take our industry for granted because we know all the tricks of the trade and we say our acronyms and we use words like HELOC and clear to close. And we just automatically assume that everyone knows what we're talking about. And she's like, Erika, this is the hardest thing I've ever had to deal with, the 1031 exchange requirements. So always a reminder to just lead by education, I think, and explain these little steps to your clients that we kind of take for granted because we understand the nomenclature of what we're dealing with.
You are correct. I read an article once a couple years ago where they asked people, what is the most stressful thing you've ever gone through in your life? And of course, people listed things like, it was things like getting married, right? Or going through a divorce or going through,
right.
Having a baby, things like that. But in the top 5 was going through the mortgage process.
I'm surprised it wasn't number one.
Yeah, it wasn't number one, but it was in there.
I'm so surprised because I wish that sometimes more lenders would come to the closing table because it is so unceremonious, especially in New Jersey for different reasons. I was at a New York closing yesterday. There was 12 people at it. I go to Jersey closings. It's me and 2 people. So it's very unceremonious. But you should see that the clients kind of come to the closing table and they're almost defeated, and it's nobody's fault. You know what I mean? It's not like people were purposely, but the mortgage process is hard. Buying a home is hard. Negotiating contingencies is hard. Moving is hard. And so they look at me, and some people will say this was more difficult than child bearing. They were like, we never had this many arguments before. It was stressful. So it is. And I tell anybody, any first time buyer going into buying a house, it's not easy. HGTV makes it look like it's the easiest thing in the world. It makes it look like you could put a sticker on a house and it's yours. And it's not like that. And if you prepare people accordingly, I think they'll be mentally stronger and say, you know what, I have to get through this. Erika said it's going to be tough. You know what I mean? But we're going to make it. You can't set your clients up to fail.
I agree. And that actually leads me to my final question. So I'd like to know, what advice do you have to all of our originators out there, to all of our people in mortgage and title and real estate? You've shared a couple of things. Number one that I've got to take away is go to your closings. So that's one recommendation that I could say. But what else would you like to recommend for our mortgage professionals out there?
So I would say this. I would say always stick to your guns. Always stick to your guns. And what you think is right, do the right thing by people. And I say that because when I first started in the industry, I had a gentleman tell me that I was never going to get anywhere because I was a goody two shoes and I followed the rules. And I would, quickly disappear in the industry. And here I am 8 years strong. I did 2 billion in real estate last year, over, thousands of closings. And so I'm not going anywhere. Right. So I would say stick to your guns and lead by education. I use that phrase all the time. I use it with my team. Education is paramount. Never convince somebody of a decision, give them the options and lead them to a decision, but don't try to sell something that somebody doesn't want. That's my biggest advice. If they want to go FHA and you're trying to convince them conventional, give them all the reasons why, but don't press and don't lead. Let them be empowered with the decision and let them do it by their education.
I love that. And education is lead by education, as Erika
lead by
said.
education. That's my
great,
favorite saying.
Such a great piece of advice. And you are correct. The longer you're in the mortgage industry or title or real estate, the more things become normal to where you don't remember what it's like to be scared or to not know, right? All of us felt that way when we arrived in this industry or when we bought our first home or when we went through that. We were scared and we were overwhelmed and we were frustrated and all other kinds of adjectives that were in there. And then we come in here and it just becomes part of our day to day. And we kind of lose sight of the fact that that's exactly how our families that we serve are feeling. So lead by education, over communicate, simplify, right?
And always do right. Always do right by those people. If you can't sleep at night, then get out of the industry, because I have slept very soundly for 8 years and I've always done the right thing by people.
I love it. I love it. Well, Erika, thank you so much for doing right by all of those families. You are amazing. Thank you for sharing that incredible story. I can't wait for her to go through that experience with her children. And thank you for guiding her through that. That's fantastic.
Yes,
we know that you are going to do amazing things in everything that you do. And we wish you all the best always.
Thank you so much.